for the Department of Justice?
I was. I actually spent 8 years in the Reagan administration. First 4 years as the Director of Communications at the Office of Personnel Management, and the second 4 years at the Department of Justice. So lots of government experience, more than I ever thought I'd have.
Yeah. Did you meet, I'm sure you met Ronald Reagan?
I did. Went over to the White House for meetings on occasion, sat in on cabinet meetings, had interface with him. I had a lot of friends who worked for him, so yeah, good man, loved him.
Yeah, yeah. Well, so how do you compare your job back then to what's going on right now as the current spokesman for the Department of Justice? With all the corruption and things, you must have a strong opinion about that.
Well, I certainly wouldn't wish to be at the department at the moment. Let me put it that way. It's always a difficult job to have. There are a lot of places where you can step and turn your foot and fall all over yourself. And it requires being very, very careful and as non-political about law enforcement as you can be. That's really the most important thing. And I think something that we've been suffering through the last few years is an epidemic of letting politics get into what really needs to be nonpartisan, impartial administration of justice.
Right, yeah. Yeah, it should be impartial, just, you know, what's right is what right and constitutional, what's wrong is wrong. And
we're all supposed to be equal before the law.
Yeah, yeah. So, well, anyway, it's a pleasure to have you on the show. You're real busy right now. You have things going on with Judge Vance Day, and we're here to talk about that.
Right.
Can you give me an overview on what's going on?
Well, I had just learned before we began the interview that the commission that has been investigating him, the Commission on Judicial Ethics, has just released the copy of the complaint against him, and so we're prepared to go ahead and release that and our response. So that enables us to get into a lot of details that until now I haven't been able to talk about. And so you may want to go ahead and get into that, and we can discuss it as much time as we have for it. Okay,
yeah. What's your job with that, and what's going on? What's your strategy to help Vance? Well, how about the people, the viewers that don't know what's going on? Let's talk about what's going on.
Well, last week, the Government Ethics Commission held a meeting to consider his request for being able to set up a legal defense fund. And of course, it was not previously known until last Thursday that he needed a legal expense fund, and everybody wanted to know why. And so the problem is that we weren't able to talk about it very much, and that is something that we're now able to do. This complaint against Judge Day goes back, in some cases, to material that's several years old. And the investigation was only concluded by the staff of the Commission on Judicial Ethics in June. So there will be hearings on all of this in November. And in the meantime, we'd like to be able to talk, at least insofar as the details of the complaint allow us to do it, to talk about exactly what he's being accused of. There are a total of 13 counts in the complaint. Several of them are related to his having given a business card, believe it or not, to an official at a soccer game that his son was playing in. That somehow considered to be ethically questionable.
Why is that? Why would that be?
Because the staff alleged that this made it look like he was trying to use his position as a judge to influence something on the field, which was absolutely not true.
Oh, interesting.
And the truth of the matter is the commission considered this very complaint several years ago and dismissed it. And now it's come back from the dead, so to speak, and is being thrown at him again. I guess in cases like this, double jeopardy doesn't apply. Of course, it applies in criminal matters, and that's not what this is. This is an ethics inquiry. But nevertheless, it seems strange to bring things like that out this far after the fact, and after they were originally considered dismissed.
It's a witch hunt, really, isn't it? Is that what's?
Well, I don't want to characterize it. You're welcome to say it.
Okay.
But I don't want to characterize it.
You have to be more careful.
We're not in the business of trying to get the commission angry. What we try to do is make sure that they and the public know how thin a lot of these complaints are and why Judge Day should be exonerated in a very short period of time. Several of the other complaints or counts in the complaint involve his work as the head of the Veterans Treatment Court in Salem. This is a specialized court. I don't know if you know too much about it, but it is something that was first proposed about 6 years ago, out east, and it was decided that it works so well out there that it ought to be expanded nationally. It provides a way of taking veterans of military service who have gotten themselves into trouble and steer them out of the regular court system into a special court that's designed just for them, just for soldiers who have suffered traumas of various sorts, PTSD, and who have developed problems with addiction. This particular case involved a former Navy SEAL, member of SEAL Team 6, who had simply fallen on hard times when he got back and got himself a conviction for DUII. And, a lot of things that were just very, very, very minor, involving incidents in which the judge only watched what was happening, but they happened to be out at his cabin, and his son showed him an unloaded weapon. And that was somehow thought to be a violation of ethics. And the one that we've been talking about the last couple of days is the one that involves his decision to decline to do same-sex marriages. This is a pretty clear, straightforward thing. Judges don't have to perform marriages at all. Judges in Oregon may perform weddings if they wish, but they're not required to. And Judge Day simply decided when the court decision came down that made it clear that the Supreme Court ruling meant that gay marriages would go ahead, as a matter of fundamental, deeply held religious views on his part, he decided that he did not want to participate in those. Not that he didn't want them to have that opportunity, but he asked the staff to simply let them know that if someone were to call and indicate that they were interested in someone presiding over their same-sex marriage, they should simply be sent to one of the other judges who was perfectly willing to do those, and are a number of others. So nobody would have gone without a same-sex marriage if that's what they wanted.
Did he do weddings at all anymore?
He decided last fall that he would simply stop doing weddings altogether. And the only one that he's done since he established that policy was one in March, and that was because that particular wedding had been on his calendar for a year, and he wanted to follow through on the commitment. But since then, none. And it won't be anymore.
Yeah. What do you see is the tone out there between our First Amendment rights, our freedom of expression, and what's going on with this persecution of Christians, as I see it, or persecution of people that have this belief system?
I think that there is a lot of confusion over exactly what the First Amendment means. First Amendment protects religion, religious practice, the Free Exercise Clause. It protects freedom of speech, freedom of association. All of those freedoms are absolutely essential. That's why they're in the First Amendment. And I think a lot of people don't realize that at some point, you've got to draw the line. Yes, government officials, such as the one who's been in the news lately in Kentucky, issuing those marriage licenses was part of their job. But as was pointed out in an article in the New York Times yesterday, the state of Kentucky has never gone ahead and provided any kind of exceptions, any kind of way of accommodating the views of people like that who have deeply felt religious views about the subject and ought not to be forced to perform these weddings when it's against their religious faith. And North Carolina has done this. Other states, no doubt, will. It simply takes time. And it makes no sense to go throwing people in jail when obviously most, if not all states, will figure a way to accommodate those who really feel strongly about not wanting to participate in these weddings.
Now, she's a county clerk, Kim Davis.
Correct.
Right.
And
I would do what she would.
Issuing marriage license is part of the job.
Yes.
It doesn't mean that the county couldn't go ahead and rearrange things so that her name would not have to be on all of the marriage licenses that are issued. It would, and certainly doesn't mean that Judge Day is guilty of anything but declining to do same-sex marriages. It's simply not implied in any way by the substance of the Supreme Court decision this past summer.
Okay. What, as far as Judge Vance Day goes, what's your strategy in getting him out of this mess? What are you?
Telling the truth.
Yeah.
When anybody takes the time and trouble to read this complaint now that it's out there and read his response, it'll be clear that these complaints are pretty thin stuff, and certainly not of the sort that ought to be used to place anybody in jeopardy when it comes to judicial ethics rules. They're very, very minor, and I think that when the commission has the opportunity to hear at length about the issues that are involved in this case, we hope that they will take a look at it as we do and decide that it is something that simply doesn't warrant taking further action.
Yeah. Now, whether it be this case, the case with Kim Davis, the people with the bakeries here in a bakery here in Oregon, you've heard about that case, haven't you?
And, that is yet another kind of a case.
Yeah.
The one with Kim Davis in Kentucky involves an employee of the government. This case with Judge Day involves a judge who is, I suppose you could say, an employee, but an elected official in addition to everything else. And there you have governmental duties and responsibilities that come into play. But there really is a question when you have private citizens who are told that they must either comply with this kind of ruling or get out of the business. It seems to be an incredibly extreme approach. It's not as if you can't get a cake somewhere else. It's not as if they're doing this out of any animus. It's something that violates their deeply held religious views, and those things ought to be taken into consideration.
There aren't too many outlets where you can hear in-depth spiritual issues alongside conservative politics, where we can make a difference to those around us and our country. It's brought to you at a cost that's worthwhile, yet I'd like to do more. On 11thhourpolitics.com, you can buy books and videos that will advance this cause. There's delicious chanterelle tea containing vitamin D, proven to dispel depression. We have an art gallery and options to produce your own commercial or have us do it for you, along with other projects. It's only through a co-op that things get accomplished. I hope you will join me in this mission.